Hey guys, welcome back to another MuscleMentor.net Muscle Minute. Today we're going to talk about powerlifting, actually, and we're going to talk about cutting weight or cutting to make weight.
Yeah, and I think it's something a lot of people don't know that I do quite a bit. I've been associated with Elite FTS for off and on for a number of years, and I worked with a lot of powerlifters. And one of my favorite things to do actually is help people make weight. And I'll tell you my general approach. The typical approach I think of powerlifters is to just do a straight water cut. They, at some point before they have to make weight, they cut carbs and they cut water completely. And then the issue is that rebounding from that can be difficult because when you cut water, you tend to also flush out minerals and electrolytes like sodium and things, and so you deal with cramping more than you should. And so what I actually like to do is more of a sodium drop. And so we'll keep water high throughout the entire duration of the cut until we need to drop water. If we don't need to drop water, we won't. But instead what we'll do is we'll cut sodium. And what happens is the body adjusts aldosterone, and it'll start telling the body to hold more sodium. But because you're not eating sodium, that's not an issue. And so you continue flushing out fluid, we'll drop carbs, and then we'll continue flushing out sodium from the sodium drop, but we'll keep water in. And the benefit for that is there's lots of different ways to make weight. And a lot of people focus on making weight and that's it. And they don't think about the method they took to make weight also affects their recomp afterwards. And now, it used to be all geared lifting, three ply, triple ply, and gear lifting, your only goal with recomp was basically to be as bloated as possible. And that's a little bit different. So I'll talk about raw recomps and gear recomps. When you do a sodium cut for a raw recomp, it's very easy to control your bloat rebound. And so what you do is, by depleting the sodium, you affect aldosterone. And so what happens is when you reintroduce sodium, your body wants to hold that sodium. And the benefit for that is that sodium is required with water and glucose for glycogen storage. And so right away, we've kept water high. So until, sometimes you have to cut water for the water cut. But either way, after we make weight, we have water high, we have sodium high, and we have carbs high, and we know that glycogen is going to get stored in the muscle, and the water is going to get taken to the muscle as much as possible, because aldosterone has been affected such that the sodium retention is going to be sky high after the weight cut, and so we fill back out, and the benefit is you fill back out with bloat that's intracellular rather than extracellular. And the benefit of that is you have the bloat inside the muscle cell basically rather than just under the skin.
That's going to change your leverages
Yeah.
to be much more.
Oh yeah, and for geared lifting, it's not really you just want bloat for bloat's sake, because the equipment does a lot of the leveraging. But for raw lifting, which is really taken off, which I love, in the last 8 years or whatever, you want that leverages to come from the muscle. And I'll try to explain this. It's small differences, but basically at any joint you have a fulcrum and the tendon attaches, and there's the joint and there's the tendon attach, and how you lift at the joint. And the easiest way to think of it is with a crowbar. If you have a short crowbar or a short wrench, it's hard to get a lot of torque. You have a long crowbar and a long wrench, it's easy to get a lot of torque. And so by creating intracellular volume at the muscle, you take my tricep, for example, and I have my tricep here and the tendon attaches here. Well, when I swell up the tricep with fluid, that tendon moves out and the fulcrum point moves out, basically give me a longer crowbar or a longer wrench. And you do that at multiple joints and you get better leverages, you get better cushioning and better power distribution abilities across the joints, which is really the whole point of powerlifting. And so you set yourself up for one, better leverages, which is going to help your lifting, and at the top level every pound counts, and two, you're going to have a recomp where you're not dealing with issues like cramping because your sodium balance is all off, or cramping because your water imbalances or your water balance is all off. You're going to have a much easier recomp. The bloat's going to be roughly the same, but it's going to be the water is going to be repartitioned better into the muscle rather than just under the skin. And I can kind of discuss the basic strategy of that. Everyone's different, so anyone listening to this, if you take this and just apply it directly, it might not apply that well to you. but the kind of standard protocol would be roughly 72 hour. We starting a week or two out, we'll keep water sky high, maybe 2 gallons or 8 liters a day, and roughly 72 hours out, we'll cut sodium from the diet. And when I say cut sodium, we're not doing things like rinsing our chicken or anything like that. We're just no longer adding sodium to the food. And most people salt their food quite heavily, especially if they've been dieting already to get their weight down a little bit before the weight cut anyways. So we'll cut sodium at 72 hours out, and we'll, depending on how many pounds over you are, we'll titrate the carbohydrate intake, but we traditionally go pretty low carb up to the weigh-in. And then the very last day, you might need to use a sauna, and some methods for sauna are a really hot shower, or putting on a bunch of clothes, turning if you're usually in a hotel room for a big meet, turning the shower on as hot as it'll go, full blast, putting a towel to kind of seal the bottom of the door, and just sitting there playing on your iPad or something and letting the room get as hot as possible. And then as a last resort, we'll cut water also. And then after you carb up, what I recommend is a couple of things. Depending on how severely you want to bloat, one product you can use is something called desmopressin, which is a bedwetting drug actually, and it affects vasopressin. And by taking desmopressin, you can get a nasal spray, and this is it's a non-scheduled drug, so you can get it pretty easily. And so that shuts off the body's
vasopressin. Just tell me you wet the bed.
Yeah. If you're willing to do it, everyone's been there. But desmopressin, and then something to slow down the rate of the kidneys. And the easiest thing to do is a strong NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, which is basically just Advil, 1,600 milligrams of Advil and Motrin. And I recommend the Motrin first, the desmopressin usually only if you're a geared lifter and you want extreme bloat. And then after you step up, you make weight, you step off the scale, you should have a big 64-ounce jug of essential amino acids and a shit ton of waxy maize or highly branched cyclodextrins or carbolin or something like that. Yeah. And then what I use for sodium, actually, because if you add salt to it, it's going to taste like shit and it's going to be hard to stomach. Add baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. So you get the same amount of sodium, add about a teaspoon of baking soda to your 64 ounces. All it does is gives it a little carbonation, so it actually tastes good. Pound that as quickly as you can afterwards, and then you're going to start the ramen and half-strength Gatorade protocol. And what you do is you'll take about 3 gallons of half-strength Gatorade, not full-strength Gatorade. Full-strength Gatorade has too much glucose per 8 ounces per serving, and it causes there's the osmolarity of dextrose of a dextrose solution or glucose solution about what Gatorade is around 150 roughly, where the osmolarity of blood is 297 to 303 nanograms per deciliter. And so what you have is a concentration gradient where there's and actually it's higher than 150, I think. Yeah, sorry, I did that the reverse. But anyway, you have a concentration gradient where water wants to pool in the stomach, which bloats you, but not bloat you as far as filling water in the body. It bloats you by filling up your stomach so you can't drink and you can't eat. And so what happens is when you dilute the Gatorade to half strength, it lowers the osmolarity it down to a much lower number, where it creates a concentration gradient where the blood doesn't want to pool in the stomach. The fluid passes through the stomach more quickly into the small intestine, where the sugar and electrolytes are actually taken up into the bloodstream. And so we'll sip on half-strength Gatorade constantly throughout the day, trying to get 2 to 3 gallons in. And then you'll do the ramen protocol, which is basically as quickly as you can stomach it, eat 2 packs of ramen with the full seasoning on it every hour and a half, 2 hours. And you just repeat that for roughly 1,000 grams, depending on the size of the client. But most guys, they think 220 or 242 pound weight class, 1,000 grams of carbohydrates from ramen, 2.5 gallons of fluid from half-strength Gatorade, and then another 200 grams of carbs from the highly branched cyclodextrins in the initial drink you drink right after stepping off the scale. And you bloat back up, but you bloat back up in a good way where all that fluid goes in the muscle intracellularly. Your leverages are better, you have no issues with cramping, and you're strong as hell on meet day.
Yeah, you have a cool fat head.
Yeah.